Hi there, my name is Tyrant44, and behind me is a timer system I built for King of the Ladder. King of the Ladder is a classic Minecraft game, with its origins dating back to the Minecraft server over 12 years ago. After that, it became one of the most popular minigames in the early years of Minecraft. The objective is to fight your way to the top of the ladder and stay up there for as long as you can, though previously there's never really been a way to determine a winner. So, I designed this timer system, so that somebody can actually win the game. This makes it more competitive and more fun. And it definitely doesn't look like anything else. When you climb to the top, right-click the note block corresponding to your color. And then the lights here will start turning off as your timer drains. There's also a blinking light up above to show which timer is active. When someone else hits their timer, the first timer will turn off, and that timer will be active. The lights sort of snake around the bottom and then go back up to the top. And when a timer runs out, there will be a bell and a firework will go off. And then the entire display starts blinking. First person to fully drain their timer wins. The system will support up to 8 different players or teams. The display is made so that you can see it clearly from the top, as well as climbing up from the bottom. And when you're done, just hit this button, and all of the timers will start to refill. And when all of the timers are refilled, there will be a chime, and the game will be ready for the next time playing. So when you build it, I recommend making the ladder about 100 blocks tall, and no more than 120, or else it takes too long to climb up. And you could start the base of the ladder at ground level, but I like to dig a big pit, and then make these platforms that you have to jump off of. And of course, make sure to have some beds to set your spawn. Also, adding in some banners with different symbols might help for players who have color blindness. And I personally like to leave the redstone exposed, because I think it looks cool. But if you want to cover it up, an idea might be an alien spaceship, with the ladder being a tractor beam. But once again, this game's a classic. It's so much fun to play, and the timer system just makes it that much better.
Oh my god, that was dirty. Who did that? I hate you. I hate you. Pork chop, pork chop! Yay!
So, before we go over the redstone, I'd like to announce that I made a community Discord server. Here you can ask questions about any of my designs, talk about redstone, share your own projects or videos, or just hang out. And most importantly, share pictures of your pets. Alright, let's take a look at the redstone. Also, I will make world downloads available for both Java and Bedrock down in the description. So the basic display is 8 lights down and 7 lights back up, with the redstone placed like this. And then when you power it, it has just enough signal strength to reach the last light. By the way, I'm using the Redstone Tweaks resource pack made by Redstone. Next, we have a note block here, which is detected by this observer chain facing into a block above these 2 droppers facing into each other, with 1 item in this dropper. Then there's a comparator output, which powers this hopper, which has 5 full stacks of items, and that faces into this hopper here. And we'll add a circuit to power this hopper later, so for now I'm just going to place a redstone block. Then this hopper has a comparator output, which chains into a couple of more comparators, and then powers this dust, which lights the whole display. So now, when you right-click the note block, it pushes the item from this dropper into this dropper, unpowers this hopper, and then the items start draining into this hopper, which will start draining lights from the display. Next, we have a redstone torch here, which faces into a block with another torch, and then 2 hoppers facing into each other, with 1 item in this hopper, and then a comparator facing into a block with a redstone dust and a lamp. So now, when we activate the timer, it unlocks the hopper so that this item passes between the 2 of them, causing the display light to blink. I also like to add a note block here with an emerald block under it to make a sound whenever you activate the timer. And this will be shared between this timer and the one that goes next to it. Now, to add the wind detection, we have a torch here that'll turn on once that hopper completely drains. And then a bell here, a line of blocks and redstone, and then a dropper here filled with fireworks of the same color as this timer. Repeater on top of that, and then a dispenser here that's empty because it's also shared by the timer that goes next to this one. So now, when this last light turns off, it rings the bell and shoots a firework, and then a glass pane here makes sure that the firework explodes right over the top of the ladder. So we also want the entire display to blink when the timer runs out. So we add 2 hoppers down here facing into each other, with 1 item in this hopper, and then a comparator output, block, dust, and then a redstone torch here. So now, when the last light runs out, it unlocks this hopper so the item passes back and forth, which causes the display to blink. So we also need to add the circuit that turns the timer off, which happens when you activate a different timer. So I went ahead and added the triggers for the other 7 timers, and these are all connected by this big redstone line that goes over the top of them all, which gets activated by these observers here. So to turn the timer off, we need to move the item from this dropper here back into this dropper here. Now in Java Edition, droppers are subject to quasi-connectivity. So we need to add a block here and then a no block here. That forces a block update to that dropper. Then another block and a repeater right here. So now when we activate another timer, it moves the item from that dropper back into the first one and turns the timer off. So this circuit still gets triggered when we activate the red timer. But this repeater is set to 1 tick, while the observer takes 2 ticks to process. So turning the timer off happens first, and then turning it on would happen second. So when we activate it, it still turns on. So that pretty much covers the redstone for a single timer, at least in Java Edition. We need to make a few tweaks to get this working in Bedrock. Alright, so I've loaded up the world in Bedrock Edition. So I just mentioned how in Java, droppers are subject to quasi-connectivity. Well, that's not the case in Bedrock. So we actually need to remove these blocks in the repeater, place a block, and then 2 pieces of dust here. For the same reason, we also need to place a block above this dispenser, and then due to some timing differences, we need to set this to 2 ticks. So the other big difference between Java and Bedrock is that in Bedrock, you can't detect note blocks being right-clicked with observers. So we need to come up with something else to trigger the timers. Now, you could just put some buttons on the note blocks, but from experience, they're really difficult to hit while playing because they're too small. So the 2 blocks that I've found that I think work best are fence gates or daylight sensors. Bedrock is weird. Okay, back in Java Edition now, thankfully. So next, we want to take that timer and then copy it 8 times with different colors, with adjacent timers mirroring each other. And then I fill in the empty space with extra concrete and sea lanterns to make it look nicer. So now all of the timers will work, but we have to add the reset system. So we need to come to one of these sides and swap out one of these sea lanterns for a block that can carry a redstone signal. And I use verdant frog lights because the texture is not too different. Then we go up here and place a redstone dust right here, an observer here, and then another dust here. Then we take a button and put it on the frog light, and now, if a timer is active, we can turn it off just by pressing this button, and no other timers activate. So when we press this button, it powers this redstone dust. That also powers this emerald block here. So next, we need to add a piston down below that, with an observer detecting it. That faces into a block, with a repeater coming out of that facing into another block, and on top of that, another piston. And then we can break out these 2 redstone blocks that we had here previously and place one right here. Next, we add a line of blocks and redstone that goes all the way around the entire system and goes over top of these hoppers where we previously had the redstone blocks. You'll need a few repeaters to get it to go all the way around. So now when we press this button, the piston will push this redstone block out of the way and deactivate that redstone line. And then, if there are any depleted displays, they'll start filling back up, because now these outside hoppers are unlocked and the items are moving back into this hopper here. So now we need a way to push this redstone block back in place when all of these timers are completely refilled. And to do that, we need to take a comparator output from each of these timers. Then under these blocks, we have a redstone line that runs all the way around the entire system, and then meets up at a block right here. From there, we have a redstone dust on top of that block, running into a target block with a torch and another block. Or you could use a regular block in place of a target block, but then you need an extra dust back here to direct the redstone into that block without powering these hoppers. So then we want to place a piston right here. What the hell? So then we want to place a piston here, and that'll push that redstone block back in place. And then we want to come around to this upper line and place a note block there with a packed ice underneath it. And this piston will stay in the extended state, preventing this button from doing anything while the system is reset. But as soon as we activate one of the timers, the piston will retract again. So now, as long as there's still items in any of these outside hoppers, it'll power this redstone line, which will keep that piston retracted. But as soon as this last hopper completely empties, it extends the piston, the chime goes off, and now the system is completely reset. And that completely covers the redstone. Once again, I'll leave a link to the world downloads down in the description, along with my Discord. As always, I ask that you leave a like on the video if you use the design, or if you enjoyed the video. And go check out my channel if you want to see more redstone or minigame designs. I've also linked a playlist down below. And subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks for watching.